Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our public hearing this evening. We are doing a public hearing on the Bethesda Downtown Minor Master Plan Amendment. The Planning Board's draft recommends technical updates to the 2017 Bethesda Downtown Plan, covering a plan area of roughly 450 acres. The Planning Board draft and attachment can be viewed on the Planning Board's website. A Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee work session is scheduled for March 10th, 2025. Those wishing to submit material for the council's consideration should do so by the close of business on March 3rd, 2025. As a reminder, for our public hearing, and according to our testimony guidelines, your comments must be limited to issues relevant to the public hearing topic for which you are testifying and are appropriate for a public meeting. Tonight, you will hear a tone when your time is up, and we appreciate everyone abiding by their allotted time. And before we turn to our first panel, I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Friesen, the district council member, who'd like to say a few words before the hearing.
Thank you, Madam President. Thanks so much. I'm really excited that we're here in the community. This was a commitment that we made at the beginning of this council, that this entire council has embraced, to be in the communities where we're discussing master plans. So really appreciate that we're continuing that tradition. Want to reiterate, not only March 10th, but March 14th. We're already scheduled both of those, March 10th and March 24th, both of those dates at the Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee. Will be meeting both of those times, and just want to thank the community for being here. Thank in particular the Implementation Committee for all of your work and coordination and efforts to implement the Bethesda Downtown Plan and in moving this forward. Amanda Farber and Jack Alexander, I know, are here as the co-chairs, and just want to reiterate my commitment to work together with the community to fulfill the vision of the plan as originally moved forward. And as we're taking this up, I think it's an appropriate time for us to address public amenities and a good time for us to hear from you tonight. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And I just want to note that our colleague, Councilmember Lori Ann Sales, is virtual for the public hearing tonight. We will begin with the first group of folks who are here to testify, and we'll start off with Chair Harris.
Yeah, thank you so much, and good evening, Council President Stewart, Vice President Jawando, and members of the council. My name is Artie Harris, and I'm chair of the Montgomery County Planning Board. I'm excited to be here this evening to testify on the Planning Board draft of the Bethesda Minor Master Plan Amendment. Today, downtown Bethesda is a thriving urban center that is an essential economic engine to the county and is one of its most desirable communities. And the 2017 plan has been a huge part of making that happen. However, as the county grows, it is important that we revisit plans to make sure the goals are being realized. This minor plan amendment makes necessary adjustments that will ensure Bethesda remains that economic engine and the community has the amenity it needs to thrive. Downtown Bethesda Minor Master Plan recommends removing the development cap that in 2025 has become an obstacle to realizing the 2017 plan vision, increasing the park impact payment rate to help bring new park amenities sooner, incentives for a new downtown recreation center, and maintaining affordability and creating more affordable housing for families and those needing deeper affordability. Montgomery Planning and Park staff worked with stakeholder communities, including residents, developers, and the Bethesda Downtown Implementation Advisory Committee to develop the recommendations. In December 2024, the Planning Board held a public hearing and updated the recommendations based on testimony received from the resident and real estate development communities. These recommendations will help to continue to expand access to the many opportunities and amenities in downtown Bethesda. They will improve predictability of the real estate development market, further progress toward new downtown parks, and enhance housing affordability. On behalf of the Planning Board, I encourage council members to approve the Planning Board's draft of the Bethesda Downtown Minor Master Plan Amendment. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair Harris. Next, we have Ms. Fairweather.
Good evening. I'm Jane Fairweather, and I've been a part of the Bethesda community for decades. I am currently the chair of the board of the Art and Entertainment District. It is our mission to bring art to our community and support local artists. I am here tonight speaking on behalf of the Bethesda Art and Entertainment Board, which has an impressive track record for promoting and implementing public art in the Bethesda downtown area. The state of Maryland has designated downtown Bethesda as an art and entertainment district, which is managed by the Bethesda Urban Partnership, BUP. In coordination with BUP, the A&E Board fundraises as a not-for-profit organization and champions a diverse number of art and entertainment projects in the district. We attach to this testimony more information on the A&E Board and its work within the district. The A&E Board is here tonight in strong support of the current version of the Bethesda Minor Master Plan Amendment that would allow incentive density payments for public art to be made to the A&E Board and other responsible civic organizations as part of an anticipated Bethesda overlay zone update or the incentive zoning update. The specific language provides the following on page 26. To provide greater flexibility to promote payments for public art in downtown Bethesda, the MMPA recommends updating the BOZ to allow fee payments to also be accepted by BUP, the Bethesda A&E District, or other civic art organizations accepted by the planning staff. This opportunity would encourage more art in the county by facilitating Pier 1 payments for art or placemaking to a capable party who then implement responsive projects in the vicinity of the subject development. The A&E Board, among others, is poised to receive such funds and utilize them for the betterment of county residents. We hope that the opportunity will remain in the council's final version of the Bethesda Minor Master Plan Amendment and any subsequent incentive density updates to either the overlay zone or the IZU. Up to this point, the A&E Board has worked cooperatively with planning staff to expand the public art incentive density benefit opportunity in Bethesda, and we look forward to working with the council to ensure it becomes a reality. Thank you very much for your consideration and support of these comments.
Thank you. Ms. Bolt?
Hi, I'm Karen Boldy with the Lockwood Manor Citizens Association. WMCA strongly opposes the MMPA's proposed elimination of the development cap for downtown Bethesda. Removal of the development cap is not a minor amendment and would inappropriately change the key component around which the 2017 Bethesda Downtown Plan was designed, namely the establishment of a 32.4 million square foot development cap that balances new commercial and residential development with the need for corresponding public amenities, parks, and green spaces. To realize the goals of the Bethesda Downtown Plan, it is critical to retain the development cap. Removal of the cap would lead to unacceptable harms to the environment from increases in greenhouse gas emissions. As the climate assessment found, all three tested density increases resulted in a 34 to 73.5% increase in greenhouse gas emissions, contrary to the county's climate action plan. In addition, removal of the development cap would exacerbate traffic congestion. WMCA believes that the projected increases in travel times of around 2 minutes are significant, not modest. Already, northbound PM peak period travel times have increased up to 40% on Maryland 187 since the installation of the bike lanes between Ryland Drive and Tilden Lane. Travel delays for the entirety of Maryland 187 are even longer. These increases in travel times are worrisome due to the negative impact traffic congestion has on timely access to suburban hospital and the ability of emergency medical, fire, rescue, and police vehicles to reach communities in a timely manner. If, despite our concerns, the County Council decides to raise the development level, the county needs to provide confirmation that the water, sewer, electrical, and broadband infrastructure, stormwater management, transportation, roads, and school capacity will be sufficient to accommodate new development. Finally, any increases in the density level should be tied to the delivery of public amenities, parks, and green spaces. As planning notes, while many new buildings have been completed in downtown Bethesda since 2017, there has not been as many new public amenities and no new parks have been completed. We agree with our Chevy Chase neighbors that any increases in density should be contingent on the submission of a detailed plan outlining the delivery of amenities promised in the Bethesda Downtown Plan. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Next is Mr. Barnes.
Thank you. My name's David Barnes. I represent the Edgemoor Citizens Association, a community association of a little over 500 homes immediately west of the Central Business District, about 300 yards from where we're sitting. As I told the planning board in December, this minor amendment is far from minor. It is a fundamental change in the plan and an abandonment of the promises the plan made to keep the amount of density and development in check. Eliminating the BOS density cap may very well generate more park impact payments and other fees to help pay for new amenities, but packing downtown Bethesda with more development and density is a double-edged sword. And the plan gives little attention to the potential downsides. I think that the county council should look at both the advantages and disadvantages of this amendment, especially since the point of the density cap was to assure people who were worried about overdevelopment that there was a finite limit and that planners recognized that unlimited development was unwise. That's one of the main reasons why communities like mine supported the plan. I don't believe that this draft makes the case for raising the development cap, much less eliminating it. It also proposes to continue existing practices for determining and monitoring infrastructure needs, but that process has been fundamentally flawed for years, especially with regard to schools, and it results in a chronic disconnect between new growth and the infrastructure needs to support it. Don't worry, the infrastructure will be there, can't be the answer every time. The planning board obviously was not swayed by these concerns, but they did make one substantive change after receiving public testimony. Despite promises not to change zoning or height limits, the board added a new item that did just that. 2 blocks of Arlington Road that face our community, they make up those 250 yards that I mentioned, were excluded from the height incentive area in order to reduce impact on the residential areas. In the final draft, the planning board removed that exemption with no public notice and no opportunity for comment. So I hope you'll reject this draft amendment and demand a better accounting for the reasons and the effects of any change in the plan. If you want to set a new cap, fine, set a new cap, clearly explain to residents that why the higher cap is needed and what it might mean. And don't rely on business as usual to monitor outcomes. Demand a regular and ongoing monitoring process. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Biajetski.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Rich Biajetski, and I'm a resident of downtown Bethesda. I'm speaking today as a representative of Strong Towns. We are an organization with the goal of making our communities more financially resilient and affordable. We would like to voice our support for the amendment as written. The country is in the midst of an affordability crisis, with the cost of housing being one of the biggest causes. Housing, like everything else, follows the law of supply and demand. Demand to live in Bethesda is high due to the many amenities, excellent schools, ample job opportunities, and proximity to Washington. If supply does not rise to meet that demand, prices will increase. As long as the development cap remains in place, the stagnant housing supply will lead to higher prices as more people compete for the limited supply of housing that is available. That is why That is why we need to eliminate the development cap. Others have suggested simply raising the cap, but we believe that is insufficient. Developers may become reluctant to start projects if it is unclear what and how much they are allowed to build due to a changing development cap. Additionally, if the new cap is reached too quickly, more time would need to be spent by the council on amending the master plan instead of other tasks. To avoid these pitfalls, it would be best to remove the cap entirely. By removing the housing cap, we can work to address the large housing demand by allowing developers to build the housing that we need to lower housing costs and make Montgomery County more affordable. Others have also suggested that removal of the development cap will lead to excessive traffic. I will note, though, that many of the newest developments have been multifamily apartment buildings. Many of the residents who live in these buildings do not drive, instead relying on walking, biking, and public transportation through the bus and metro system, causing less traffic than if they had lived in less transit-accessible areas and had to drive into or through Bethesda to get to their destination. In addition to the removal of the development cap, we believe that the decision to limit PIP increases to match inflation and splitting PIP into multiple payments is a good proposal. By making these changes, developers should be less reluctant to build due to lower profit margins. I would like to thank the council for affording us the opportunity to speak. We hope that the council will listen to our requests and pass the master plan amendment as is. We are in a housing crisis now, and we must act if we are to address housing costs. And removing the development cap is an important step in doing so. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to our first panel. Next, I will call up Keith Campbell, Richard Hoy, Elizabeth Rogers, Zach Trupp, and Amanda Farber. As a reminder, as folks are coming up, our testimony guidelines ask that your comments be limited to issues relevant to the public hearing topic for which you are testifying and appropriate for a public meeting. And when you hear the tone, please know that your time is up. All right, we'll start with Mr. Campbell.
Okay, thank you all. Thanks for having this hearing and giving me the opportunity to speak. I basically echo the strong town's perspective that we just heard, and I do it because of my son, who is sitting right there, and his friends and peers, the younger generation that needs a place to live. I would like them to be able to live here in Bethesda. I'm in Bethesda. I would like him and his friends to be able to do that too. For that to happen, we need to be able to add housing. This is one way to do it. I think there are other ways that you guys are looking at, and I appreciate that. But this is one way, and therefore I support the proposal as is. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hoy.
Thank you, Council President Stewart and council members. Welcome to Bethesda, my home, and the headquarters for my father's business on Norfolk Avenue for many, many years. He moved his business from Tacoma Park, Carroll Avenue, to Norfolk Avenue many, many years ago. I'm a retired firefighter and live in Bethesda, just outside of the downtown district, and support the plan. I live in a house with two housemates. I have a reverse mortgage on it now, and the three of us combined have an income less than the average income that's reported in this master plan of $185,000. None of us drive, all of us work or are productive. Making the downtown more walkable and bikeable and transit friendly is a great prospect. It is very uneven in downtown Bethesda. As a cycling professional, I have found that the disaggregated infrastructure, sidewalk and bike facilities, does not allow me to actually take a tour group of people on rental bikes throughout the amenities of downtown Bethesda, because you can't get there from here because of one block or one section of the road or section of the downtown or another that is not implemented. So we have lots of work, and this plan will help fund and get that work knitted together. I support eliminating the cap on development. I support the BOS plan. I would like to see height limit increased on the west side of Arlington Road. Arlington Road is a civic boulevard. That was said by Fred Kent of Project for Public Spaces, a nationally recognized expert in urbanism, over 30 years ago when he was here on a contract. And that is needed to implement that, to flesh that out. We do not have enough completeness in our plan for infrastructure in bike parking. It is hit and miss. With the advent of e-bikes become very practical, County Executive Elrich has two, we have a problem with many buildings that you cannot safely park a bike in front of. And if you have an e-bike, a little more expensive than a cheap bike you can use, you just are not afforded the opportunity to access that. And that includes...
Sorry, our little noise is not working, but your time is up.
Okay.
If you can just
And
wrap up that sentence. Thank
that
you.
includes medical buildings. So
Thank
I
you.
have a few more points, and you'll see that in my writing.
I appreciate
Thank
it.
you all, and thank you. Welcome
Thank you.
to my community.
Thank you. Ms. Rogers?
Thank you. Good evening, President Stewart and members of the Montgomery County Council. My name is Elizabeth Rogers with the law firm of Lurch, Early & Brewer. I'm providing testimony tonight in support of the Planning Board draft of the Bethesda Minor Master Plan Amendment. I'm testifying on behalf of the owner of several properties located in the northeast quadrant of Montgomery Lane and Arlington Road. The property, which is currently underutilized, is uniquely situated for residential infill redevelopment, given its proximity to the Bethesda Metro Station. However, given that the property is located outside the height incentive area, there's currently not an incentive to provide for additional MPDUs in connection with that redevelopment today. As the council is keenly aware, the Bethesda sector plan, one of the overarching goals was to increase affordable housing. Unlike other areas of the county in Bethesda, the threshold is higher. To achieve MPDU bonus height, you must provide more than 17.5% MPDUs and be located in the height incentive area in order to qualify. The height incentive area currently established by the BOS is unnecessarily restrictive along the Arlington Road corridor. And we support the Planning Board's recommendation to address this by expanding the height incentive area as shown on page 24 of the Planning Board's draft in an effort to encourage these underdeveloped sites to redevelop and provide much needed more affordable housing. This expansion will not have any impact negatively on the surrounding properties. Notably, the proposed expansion area is buffered from the surrounding residential community by publicly owned land, including Arlington Road itself, the Bethesda Elementary School site, the Bethesda Library site, and the closest edge of the nearest single-family home, as measured to the back of their rear yard, is over half the length of a football field away, over 190 feet. Additionally, the Planning Board draft recommended limiting that height increase that would be available to 24 feet or 2 stories. This limitation, in combination with the Bethesda design guidelines, provide appropriate controls to ensure that additional height won't have a perceived impact on the surrounding community. I'd also note that there's a diversity of heights within that area today, and only a few remaining development sites that have potential, which wouldn't then be out of character with the surrounding neighborhood. Yet this change will incentivize additional affordable housing in this downtown transit accessible location. I also wanted to quickly just touch on the park impact payment and the density cap. We support the Planning Board's recommendation to eliminate the density cap within Bethesda. This change will provide needed certainty to developers to ensure that desirable additional development and all the public benefits, including the park impact payment and the like, continue to come to Bethesda. We also support the Planning Board's recommendation to stagger the park impact payment into the 2 payments, which appropriately recognizes the burden that those upfront costs have on new development. I've submitted written testimony which touches on these points in more detail, but I appreciate your consideration of our comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Trupp?
Thank you, President Stewart. Members of the council, before I begin, I want to state that even though I am a registered lobbyist with the Greater Capital Area Association of Realtors, the views expressed tonight are my own as an individual and a resident of Bethesda. I greatly appreciate you all taking the time to hear from the community about the minor master plan amendments recommended by the Planning Board. I would like to focus tonight on the issue that underlines all the recommendations, residential development. Very simply, we need more of it. With over 400 MPDUs created since 2017, this master plan has been one of, if not the most, successful development plan in Montgomery County. And why shouldn't it be? Bethesda is our economic engine. But we need to do more. The 2017 plan that passed was a hard-fought compromise by then District 1 Councilmember Roger Berliner. I had the privilege to serve on his staff at that time. Watching this play out legislatively and then seeing it come to fruition over the years has been a treat. But within that compromise, the council lowered the housing targets. They downsized the plan. They reduced heights and density along its edges. Commercial development slows when the residential backbone of an area is not robust. We have all seen this play out in other areas of our county, like the city of Rockville, and I do not want it to happen in my community. Montgomery County needs Bethesda to thrive. I live on Battery Lane. My unit is a naturally occurring affordable housing unit, and I would kindly ask those Battery Lane projects not be used to denigrate developers and development projects, as some county officials continue to do in their public comments. I ask that we stop talking about, quote, no net loss policies like they exist in a vacuum and don't affect actual people and actual development. I urge you to pass, if not broaden, the MMPA's modest recommendations of more density bonuses through the PIP and the height incentive extension of Arlington Road, as well as the removal of the development cap in favor of a project-specific impact mitigation. We are in a deepening housing crisis. The properties being redeveloped, including my own, are in desperate need of that redevelopment. The single-digit net loss of affordable units in favor of hundreds of new units and amenities, along with the creation of MPDUs to replace the vast majority of the naturally occurring units, is a feature, not a bug, of a healthy housing marketplace. And the market rate housing built now will eventually become the naturally occurring affordable units of tomorrow. Without this growth, we will simply see the market get more and more prohibitively expensive. The policy literature is near unanimous when it comes to the nexus of economic growth and housing. Jurisdictions that build housing thrive, and jurisdictions that make perfection the enemy of progress crumble. I implore you to take bold and decisive action to create a better housing future for our county. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to that second panel. Next, our third and final panel in person, and then we'll go to our virtual folks. We have Amanda Farber, Jack Alexander, and Rabitha Moses. As a reminder, for our testimony guidelines, your comments must be limited to issues relevant to the public hearing topic for which you are testifying. And we are trying to work on the tone for the timer, but when your time is up, we will let you know. Thank you very much. Sorry, Mr. Campbell, we thought you were virtual. If Alexander Campbell wants to come up. Sorry.
You want to sit right here?
Okay. So we'll have, sorry, Mr. Campbell, we thought there's somebody else online then with the name Alexander Campbell. Our apologies. We'll have you go first because you were earlier. So we'll start with Mr. Campbell, then go to Mr. Alexander, and then go to Ms. Farber, and then Ms. Moses.
Okay, hello. So everybody knows my name is Alex Campbell. I'm a student at the University of Maryland and a resident here in Bethesda, and I am here to express my support for the CTA. Removing this cap is essential to achieving the goals laid out in the Bethesda Minor Master Plan because it gives developers the certainty that they need to invest in our community, that investments here are safe and worthwhile. And continued private investment is so important because it funds new public recreation centers, new permanently deeply affordable housing units, and all at no cost to county taxpayers. Beyond deeply affordable housing units, spurring new market rate housing will increase the housing supply and therefore alleviate increasing housing pressures. We have heard concerns over traffic, the environment, and increased public infrastructure, but lifting this cap and boosting housing density bonuses will address these issues rather than worsen them. This is because increasing density and spurring development here in Bethesda will limit urban sprawl. Less cars will have to travel shorter distances. More people will walk and bike and use public transport, and we won't have to extend costly utilities and public infrastructure as far. Our county planners, the experts on this matter and these issues, as well as the academic literature, are clear on these issues, that we need more development, private and public, to address urban issues and realize the goals in the 2017 Downtown Master Plan, namely more abundant housing, economic growth, improved public infrastructure. This is a unique opportunity to promote sustainable growth, prosperity, and an enhanced quality of life for all who call Bethesda home. I urge you all to vote in favor of this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Thank you again for coming tonight, and we'll get you home for the Terps game. Next, we have Mr. Alexander.
Good evening. I'm Jack Alexander. I'm here as my role as co-chair of the Bethesda Downtown Implementation Advisory Committee. We testified at the Planning Board back in December in favor of the amendment, and we're made up of 7 commercial representatives and 7 residential members, and when we agree on something, it's rare, but it's good. And tonight I've brought the Michael Jordan of the Bethesda Plan, Amanda Farber, who is going to expand a little further on what has transpired since December and hopefully keep this thing on track. Thank you. Amanda?
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out to Bethesda or participating online. And I am testifying on behalf of the Bethesda Implementation Advisory Committee, as Jack said, who is my awesome co-chair. The committee is made up of both residents and commercial representatives, but more importantly, in my view, it's made up of folks who are incredibly knowledgeable about the sector plan, its history, its implementation, and who are dedicated to ensuring its success, including with this proposed amendment. The IAC provided testimony at the planning board on the draft amendment, and then also extensive comments on the most recent annual monitoring report. And we forwarded these more detailed written comments to the council for your review. So tonight I would just like to highlight a couple points regarding the CAP, parks, and schools. In 2017, the council voted to establish a cap on development in Bethesda. Since then, we've seen lots of construction, mostly residential projects, and we also still have several millions of square feet worth of development that could be approved and built before the cap is hit. That being said, the IAC supports removal of the cap, but we do so on the condition that there's a requirement for additional check-in points included in the Bethesda overlay zone to ensure community resources like parks, transportation improvements, and a recreation center are keeping pace with development, and that the needs of current and future residents are being met, and that the policies and funding mechanisms needed to implement the promised infrastructure and amenities are established. We want to emphasize that it's important that there be realistic assessments of where things stand, especially with so much uncertainty at this point. In terms of parks, the plan recognized that downtown Bethesda was lacking in parkland and made new parks a main goal. The last new parkland acquired in downtown Bethesda was over 40 years ago. So the plan recommended 13 new parks and 13 new acres of parks. So far, none have been delivered, and there's no certainty as to when they might be. A significant portion of the Park Impact Fund, $10 million, is now tied up in a property that Park and Planning now says is unviable for a park. We recognize the considerable challenges involved, but also think the county must do better in this area. Lastly, I just want to draw attention to the fact that Bethesda Elementary underwent a redistricting just 2 years ago to manage overcrowding. Yet it's again so overcrowded that the superintendent made the unprecedented move to allow families to change schools mid-year, though that offer did not include transportation and not many families opted to make the change because of that. There'll be another 1,000 new units coming online in downtown Bethesda in the Bethesda Elementary boundary between now and next school year. And I know there's families there who would like to know the plan for September. overall, I hope you will review the IAC's written comments, and we hope that the IAC can be a resource to the council, because like Jack said, we all do really work well together. So
Great. Thank you, Ms.
you.
Farwer. Now, Ms. Moses.
Good evening, esteemed members of the County Council. My name is Rabitha Moses, and I sit before you today with a resolute commitment to justice, truth, and the preservation of Black history. I speak on behalf of the Bethesda African Cemetery Coalition, the coalition fighting to protect Moses Cemetery from desecration and erasure. Moses Cemetery is more than a burial site, it's a sacred ground, the final resting place of our ancestors and a testament to both the resilience and suffering of the Black community in Montgomery County, Maryland. History has a way of repeating itself. When injustice is not confronted, once it was the KKK that terrorized Black families in this county, burning homes, stealing lands, and pushing Black communities to the margins through violence and fear. Today, the same racist agenda persists, but the tactics have changed. The white hoods have been replaced with business suits, and the cross burnings have been exchanged for development projects that erase Black history and displace Black people under the guise of progress. The developers who desecrate Moses Cemetery are no different from the KKK that stole Black land in Montgomery County generations ago. The only difference is their uniform. Brother Harvey Matthew knows this history firsthand. The land where the Whole Foods on River Road stands was stolen from his family by the KKK. That theft of Black land and Black wealth has never been rectified, and now in the present day we watch as yet another sacred Black space, Moses Cemetery, is threatened with erasure. Racism does not disappear, it evolves. The same systems that once sanctioned lynchings and land theft now sanction gentrification and displacement. And silence from those in power only enables it to continue. BACC has already won victories in the Supreme Court of Maryland and the Circuit Court of Montgomery County, proving that what is happening to Moses Cemetery is not just morally wrong, it is legally indefensible. And yet County Executive Mark Elridge and the entire Montgomery County Council have remained silent. Not one of you has spoken out against the desecration, not one of you has demanded that this injustice stops. What are you afraid of? Developers? The same forces that have profited from Black suffering? The time for neutrality is over. This county cannot claim to stand for racial equity while allowing developers to continue the legacy of KKK under a different name. Supporting this desecration is supporting racism. Allowing this theft to continue is condoning injustice. We are resolute in our demands. The land stolen from Brother Harvey Matthews must be returned. Moses Cemetery must be protected and preserved, and a museum be built to ensure that this history is never erased. We ask you, will you stand on the right side of history, or will you allow the same racist systems that have plagued this county for generations to continue unchecked? The choice is yours, but know this, we will not be silent. We will not allow our ancestors to be erased. We will not stop fighting until justice is done.
We're just going to take a moment. Thank you to everyone who testified this evening. Those are all our in-person folks testifying, and when we're back up online and we're ready, we are going to have Council Member Joy White testifying, but just give us a moment. All right, we're back up, and we'll have Councilmember Joy White.
Good evening, members of the County Council. My name is Joy White, and I serve on the Town Council for the Town of Chevy Chase. I appreciate the opportunity to provide comments on the Bethesda Downtown Plan's minor master plan amendment tonight. The town of Chevy Chase supports the goals of the Bethesda Downtown Plan, which aims to encourage substantial growth while improving residents' quality of life. However, the proposal to eliminate the development cap raises a couple of concerns. First of all, a significant portion of the approved development remains unbuilt, leaving the impacts of the current cap unknown. And secondly, eliminating a comprehensive evaluation process for assessing whether the objectives of the plan are being met is problematic. So without this process, we lose the opportunity to assess the impact of development and to devise timely recommendations for adjustments. So to address these concerns, we recommend implementing a data-driven, holistic, 5-year review process of the cumulative impacts of development projects, incorporating opportunities for community input as well. And while current tools like site plan reviews, monitoring reports, and the GIP metrics are useful, they often provide isolated data points or operate at too broad a level to offer meaningful insights. For example, the 2024 Bethesda Annual Monitoring Report highlighted existing school capacity and travel challenges, provided no opportunity to discuss solutions. Therefore, we urge you to implement a comprehensive 5-year reviews that are broader than project-by-project reviews, and this approach would involve establishing a baseline for current conditions and a framework to assess progress and meeting key goals. And those goals should include maintaining acceptable school capacity, enhancing transportation options, creating parks, expanding affordable housing options, and so forth. And a comprehensive review would not only address residents' concerns, but would provide developers with greater predictability. The recent MMPA process underscores the importance of periodic reviews, especially as it yielded several recommendations, such as increasing the PIP and eliminating user lose provision. These issues would not be identified through project-specific reviews or through GIP metrics. In future, periodic reviews could raise other downtown-wide matters, such as providing more affordable housing. In conclusion, without comprehensive reviews conducted every 5 years and with community input, eliminating the cap prevents us from determining whether the plan is even achieving its goals. Regular reviews based on updated data would ensure that growth is managed responsibly and in alignment with both current needs and future aspirations. Thank you very much for allowing me to provide these comments this evening.
Thank you. Next we have Ellen Godbois.
To turn on, there we go. Thanks very much. Appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm testifying in support of this plan amendment for 2 reasons. First of all, I support more housing options in this area, especially multifamily housing, so that people at different socioeconomic levels and different stages of life can afford to live here. I think we would have a more vibrant and healthy community if we had more socioeconomic diversity. Secondly, I support the development of a new recreational facility, especially so that young people in our area have more inexpensive options for recreation. And I would hope that with a new facility, could also look at expanding hours into weekend evenings so that there is a place for youth to go that's a good place to be and is affordable. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next we have Vince Biazzi.
Good evening, President Stewart and members of the County Council. For the record, Vince Biazzi with the law firm of Lerch-Hurley & Brewer. I'm here this evening on behalf of Promark Partners, the owners of just over 3 acres of land located at the intersection of Montgomery Avenue and Pearl Street. Promark is in the early stages of planning a mixed-use project in this location, but I wanted to take this opportunity to highlight support for several recommendations included in the Planning Board draft amendment. Most importantly, we support the amendment's recommendation to eliminate the development cap. Promark has firsthand experience of the negative effects of the threat of a development cap. It is virtually impossible to provide an investor with the necessary assurances that the cap would not be reached at some point in the approval process. And irrespective of the actual threat of a moratorium that is imposed as a result of the cap, investors are risk averse, and if they have a limited amount of capital to invest, they'll simply divert it to a site in a jurisdiction where there is no cap. In Promark's situation, the potential investors walked away. But perhaps more importantly, the amendment demonstrates that the cap is not necessary and there will be adequate public facilities to accommodate anticipated development in the plan area. Second, we urge the County Council to exercise restraint in considering an increase in the park improvement payment. The proposed increase to $15.57 represents a 50% increase in the PIP since its inception in 2017. Moreover, the basis for this increase is tied to increases in construction costs, but park improvement costs are different than construction costs. The materials are different, and there's a limited need for specialized labor. Tying the increases to construction costs falsely inflates the cost of park construction in general. In addition, it is the cumulative effect of various fees, impact taxes, WSSC fees, off-site transportation improvements, as well as the PIP that can effectively sink a project. And in terms of timing of the payment of the PIP, we ask that the County Council move the entire payment to the time of final inspection of the building, similar to what the Council has done with respect to impact tax payments. Finally, we support the amendment's recommendation to eliminate the use it or lose it provision tied to the approval of a site plan. We appreciate your efforts and consideration of these comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Biazzi. And that is it for our virtual participants tonight. And those are all the people we have testifying. Thank you for sharing your feedback on this item. The public hearing is now closed and we are adjourned.